Yesterday we talked about the social psychology side of the theological discussions. More specifically, we talk about the 1965 Roman Catholic and the 1980s international Christian embassy in Jerusalem. Those two milestone event. Now let's talk about this. Let's go back to the theological side because lately we have a lot of discussions. Especially Pete Hexas has been talking about promoting the idea of Iran. The war in Iran is a holy war. I heard something. I've been thinking about this. Post the Roman Catholic Pope has already given some counter debate, so we should not take that. Should not believe that Hexas. We should believe in God. So, what is the what kind of thing that really qualify being a holy war? I'm not a totally like a pacifistic. I really believe sometimes we do have some holy war. But what is it? How do you define it? The more I think about that, the more I believe that you really have to think twice or 10 times, in combination about what God taught us. For example, the easiest one is like the Ten Commandment that God gave to Moses, okay, at the top of Mount Sinai. And then we also will talk about in reality, in the history. I think if you ask my opinion, really believe that World War II is closest to be a holy war. Why do I say that? Because the reason I say that is that there are many reasons, right? But one of the things I believe, make the war against the Hitler, Nazi Hitler, a holy war is because not because that the Hitler and the Nazi German believed in National Socialism. That's different ideology. That's his doctrine. Every country can have their national doctrine. That's fine. It's not because everybody, people talk about Hitler. They say, "Hey, hi Hitler." Not that. Obviously, not that. But most importantly, because Hitler is acting like a god, because he decided who is deserved to live and who is not. So back in Nazi Germany, he believed that the the Jewish people did not have the right to live. So that's why is that make it a significant, make it, sometimes I want to call it, supreme evil. Why is that? Because we all humans are made of in the same image of the God. So that's why God says that you don't want to worship an idol because you human yourself look like God. So that's why you don't want to kill other people. It's up to God to decide who is deserved to be punished, who is not. But Hitler basically essentially saying, look, I'm the God. I can tell you that, the Jews didn't have the right to live. So that kind of thing make the war as closest to the holy war as possible. Because God will be happy. Otherwise, you know, obviously God doesn't want anybody, any human beings to act as him. And with that, divine power a lot of it, because the final judgment has to be made by him. So that's why I think that that's how we define the holy war. Not only all the other wars, like today's Iranian wars. It's not definitely not holy. So don't believe that. The other thing, by the same token, I say that I never said that before, but I did that. I did support the right for Israel to exist. I still insist on that. Why? Because by international law, if any country already existed, certainly usually we don't want to wipe it out from the map of the earth. Okay, let alone that Israel was established based on the UN resolutions. So Israel does have a right to exist. But if you ask me if I like Israel, this country, I would say no, I don't like it because Israel, some of the people in Israel, some Israelis, they have the supreme evil. You know why? Because they believe in physical destruction of people. You know, let it. Talk about the latest law they passed that are talking about, the death sentence for the Palestinians. They acted like acted like a god, So don't believe that. I always want to say that even God doesn't have unconditional love for Israel. Why should you have? I want to the strongest message that I want to give to American evangelical is that don't give unconditional support to Israel. Israel doesn't deserve that because God even doesn't believe that. Okay, well, God talk about the two things. We have two tracks of in theology. On one track, God does says that His love to Israel is unconditional and it's faithful and will not change. On the other hand, God also says that you have to win the blessing of God by being acting reasonable, by acting good, but basically loving God, loving your neighbor. Israel is far from that. So that's why I believe that we should not, nobody should give unconditional support to Israel. It doesn't make sense at all. Even if you believe in God, believe in the Bible. Okay, so that's why sometimes I was jokingly thinking that picture myself. Somebody went to the gate of heaven and the St. Peter's asked him, "So you want to come to the heaven?" Yes, I do. So what did you do to deserve that? Well, I support Israel, unconditionally. And then Peter says, "Okay, so what else have you done? Have you, did you murder? Did you have committed adultery? Did you have like false testimony? Did you worship adult or anything else other than the God? If you if you did anything else, you don't think that the St. Peter's will let you get into the gate of the to the heaven, right? The Peter will most likely say, "Sorry, you know, supporting Israel is just the one thing." Okay, and then also Peter may ask you that. Did you read the Bible? Did you understand? Did you believe that God have an unconditional blessing of Israel? And then if you really did that, no. So sorry, you can't get into the heaven. So those kind of things. So let's stop here. We'll talk about the next step.